welcome. You're watching the News Unlocked, the show that takes you behind the headlines and brings you a different perspective to the news. So today, on a day when Prime Minister Narendra Modi has turned 70, we've decided to take a look back at the journey in politics of one of the most fascinating post-independence politicians, and dare I say, arguably and certainly one of the most powerful prime ministers India has had. In this show, I'm going to focus on 10 moments that I've chosen in the life and times of Narendra Damodar Das Modi. 10 moments that, along with special guests who will join me, I will define as turning points in the life of Narendra Modi. Let's start with the first moment that we've chosen.
In 1958, a young boy of 8 joined a youth group in his hometown of Vadnagar. For Narendra Damodar Das Modi, the youth group of the RSS Shakha was more of a post-school youth club. And although he hardly had any insight into the organization's ideologies at that age, the activities of the Shakha would end up indelibly shaping his future.
So the first moment that we've chosen in the life and times of Narendra Modi is his decision to join an RSS Shakha. He first went to a Shakha at the age of 8 and it changed his life. People say Modi doesn't have family. He has a parivar called the Sangh Parivar. Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, who wrote a biography on Narendra Modi, joins me. Nilanjan, would you agree that that was a defining moment for Narendra Modi, that decision as a young boy of 8 in Vadnagar to visit an RSS Shakha, and his real parivar in a sense has always been the Sangh Parivar?
Definitely, and I also think that it shaped, his entire political, outlook, what he followed throughout his life. I think, that was the basic decision. He told me, in one of the interviews when I was interviewing him for the biography, that right from the beginning he developed a very strong political dislike for the Congress, because he had essentially joined the RSS around the time when the Gujarat the Gujarat movement was happening from the United Bombay state.
Right.
So it was a separate, for a separate state the agitation was taking place. That's the time when he joined the Bal Shakha as a young RSS activist.
So it was essentially, so the first, of course, change therefore takes place in those years. He comes under the influence of various pracharaks, some of whom from my home state of Maharashtra, who had been loaned to Gujarat. And that, in a way, was an important turning point in his life. So remember that, joining the RSS Shakha. Yes, you wanted to say something quickly, Niranjan.
No, I wanted to say, that was the basic initiation, that he started attending the Bal Shakha in the evenings, after attending school from morning onward. And this was especially for the children. It was a wing, and the political education and the indoctrination was done at that particular time.
So Lakshman Rao Inamdar is credited with a way in which of shaping Narendra Modi's life in the RSS. Inamdar, remember, was in a sense the Prant Pracharak at that time in charge of Gujarat, and he took to the young Narendra Modi. So that's turning point number 1. Let's turn then to turning point number 2 in the life and times of Narendra Modi. And this comes in the early 1970s. Take a look.
Narendra Modi had already forayed into the world of politics. But it was the Nav Nirman Andolan in 1974 that was Modi's first encounter with mass protests. As a young pracharak and associate of Akhil Bharatiya Vidyarthi Parishad. The 1974 Gujarat Nav Nirman or Reconstruction movement was the collective outcry of people against corruption in public life. It was a socio-political movement by students and middle-class people against economic crisis and corruption in public life, and resulted in the dissolution of an elected government of the state. The movement propelled Narendra Modi to the first political post of his career, General Secretary of the Lok Sangharsh Samiti in Gujarat in 1975.
That period 73 to 75, possibly right till the end of the emergency, becomes a very decisive moment in Mr. Modi's entry in a way into street level politics.
True, it really becomes a very important part. That's a time when he spends a lot of time understanding how mass movements can be built. The Gujarat Nav Nirman movement was possibly the most important one because it came immediately after the Congress under Indira Gandhi won a large number of assembly elections, across in various states.
Right.
So that is the time when Narendra Modi comes in, and he does not actually take the leadership position in the agitation. He is then very much junior. It is only during emergency, after the emergency was imposed, that he played very important roles as an underground worker during emergency. He, actually ferried proscribed literature from Gujarat to Delhi, attended several underground meetings, arranged homestays for very important leaders, including George Fernandez. That is the first time that he met George Fernandez when George was moving around, and I'm sure that the entire world by now has seen photographs of Mr. Modi dressed as a Sardar. So that was actually around the time when he would move around in disguise.
So that is, in a sense, that movement between 74 and 77, building up this anti-Congress movement, though ironically, Mr. Modi, as he told me once, remained an admirer of Indira Gandhi, but that for another day. Let's turn to moment number 3 that comes in Narendra Modi's life, and it's the first time I met Narendra Modi. Take a look.
It was in the years 1990-91 that both Modi and Shah came in close proximity with the real power center of the BJP, LK Advani. Narendra Modi was one of the main helpers of Advani as he planned and then executed his dramatic Rath Yatra across the heart of India to build the Ram Mandir at Ayodhya. Narendra Modi managed to impress Advani with his organizational skills, managing logistics in the Gujarat leg of LK Advani's Somnath to Ayodhya Rath Yatra. As the Hindutva sentiments gathered passion, Narendra Modi watched from the sidelights of history, imbibing valuable political lessons in the whipping up of mass hysteria.
And that's the first time I met Narendra Modi. My memory of him, he always used to be dressed in very well-starched, very perfect white kurta pajamas at the time, and he would do everything that could be done on a Rath Yatra that the Karyakarta would do, from organizing chairs for the press to actually organizing the fax machines. It was, in a way, his first break politically at a national level. Uday Mahurkar, who also was there around and has tracked Mr. Modi for years with India Today, would you agree that the Rath Yatra was the first big break for Mr. Modi to organize that Rath Yatra, Uday? Short answers, please.
Absolutely, absolutely. He was the star of that yatra after Mr. Advani.
The Gujarat leg of it, because Pramod Mahajan then took it over.
Yatra. He was in charge of the entire Rath Yatra, he was not in charge of the Gujarat leg. I was there when the Rath Yatra was taken out. I was there at Somnath, and I travelled with the Rath till Ahmedabad.
And so that really showed Mr. Modi's organizational capacities. That's when his organizational capacities were recognized. Am I correct?
Yes. And then, and second, then he became a big slogan coiner for BJP in the 1991 Lok Sabha elections. All those catchy slogans,
right,
which worked for the BJP, were coined by Mr. Modi.
Okay.
As I understand. Okay. And he was in the because of the Rath Yatra in 1991, he was made member of the 11-member election committee of the BJP.
Very interesting. So that was in a way
a big jump for him.
Big jump for him.
Let's
turn to moment number 4. We're going to go. We have 10 moments to cover in half hour. Let's turn to the next moment in the life and times of Mr. Modi, his next turning point.
It was Vajpayee who cleared the path for Modi to reach the ramparts of the Red Fort. In September 2001, it had been Atal Bihari Vajpayee who had convinced a non-committal Narendra Modi to take over as Gujarat Chief Minister. Amid massive political infighting, it was decided that Modi would replace Keshubhai Patel as the Gujarat CM after the Patel administration incurred public wrath over not doing enough for the people of Gujarat in the aftermath of the 2001 earthquake.
Uday, was that a moment that in a way, just as the Rath Yatra gave Modi his first toehold in national politics, now he got what he was always looking for, Chief Ministership of Gujarat. And many thought, will a Pracharak be able to make the transition? Was there a doubt in your mind in October of 2001? Honest answer.
You see, he landed up in Delhi in 1995, was banished from Gujarat, as you know. And those 5-6 years became very crucial for him. Those were the years when he could show his talent as the National Secretary, National General Secretary. On the other hand, Keshubhai was not doing well. Suddenly, under his leadership, the BJP lost the local elections. And that was Mr. Modi's chance, you know. Yeah.
But that's something that he was always looking for. That's what he wanted. Gujarat was his karma bhumi and his janma bhumi in a way at that time. It was something he was always looking for, but he was able to make that transition effectively from Pracharak to eventually administrator. But it was a fifth turning point that became critical in making that transition from a Pracharak to a popular mass leader, from a backroom operator to a mass leader. Take a look.
In February 2002, Modi was a new chief minister with little administrative experience. But when a train with several hundred passengers burned near Godhra, killing approximately 60, it sparked off one of the bloodiest communal riots in Gujarat, and it marked a turning point in the career of Narendra Modi. Despite widespread calls for Modi to resign as chief minister in the aftermath of the violence, allegations of inaction and involvement remained unproven, and Chief Minister Modi's political aura grew. Projected as a tough-talking savior, becoming the Hindu Hriday Samrat, Modi's Gujarat Gaurav Yatra managed to win him the state elections later in the year. And so began his second term as the Chief Minister of Gujarat. Ironically, Atal Bihari Vajpayee was to attribute BJP's electoral defeat in 2004 to the Gujarat violence, saying it had been a mistake to leave Modi in office after the riots.
Nilanjan, controversial at that time, but it gave him in a way this imagery of a Hindu Hriday Samrat. Had 2002 not happened, would Modi have become the mass leader that he eventually did?
No, certainly not. He would not have become what he is today. He, in fact, everything began from 2002 because, you have to understand that he was the first BJP leader who shed the diffidence of actually approaching the center of power from the right wing of Indian politics. Previous leaders, they took it up to, especially Advani, took it up to a certain point, but at a very critical point, he faltered, did not have the confidence in his politics, which is why he stepped back. Mind you, in 95, prior to the Hawala charges leveled against him, he'd already stepped aside from Mr. Vajpayee because they realized it was not his personal decision. The RSS realized that to grow further from what the BJP was in the post-Babri Masjid demolition years, they had to have somebody who was more cast in the Nehruvian model, the Vajpayee, who was the right man in the wrong party. The problem, was that they were not able to have the confidence, whereas Mr. Modi was able to say with firmness that I am the right man in the right party.
Right.
And
So
he stuck to it, throughout from 2002 till 2014, he stuck to his basic posture as far as Hindutva is concerned. You have to grant it to him.
Therefore, let me, we have to fast forward these and keep it short because there are lots to talk about. In a way, 2002 established himself as a Hindu Hriday Samrat. It was controversial. He was a polarizing figure, but he built his support among the cadres as a result. Which brings us to our sixth moment, and we are now fast forwarding to what happened in 2013. Take a look.
भाइयों बहनों, आप मुझे प्रधानमंत्री मत बनाइए, आप मुझे चौकीदार बनाइए, चौकीदार।
It was with this rallying cry that Narendra Modi, son of tea seller Damodar Modi of Vadnagar, entered the national consciousness in 2013. 6 months later, having shred to tatters multiple political theories and beliefs, Narendra Bhai entered Parliament as the Prime Minister of India. He came in as the purger of incompetence, the annihilator of dynastic politics, as the destroyer of corruption.
Uday, 2013, the BJP decides to make Modi their prime ministerial candidate. Why do you think they took that move? Was that a move in a sense because they saw in him someone who could challenge the Congress, or because he was seen as the preferred choice of the rank and file?
I think he was seen as the preferred choice for the rank and file. Lots of leaders were not very happy being led by Mr. Modi, you know. I think it was the rank and file, his popularity in the general mass, which really resulted in his being selected as a presidential candidate. But one more thing I would like to add, Rajdeep, here. You see, in India, there has been a politics of minority appeasement which has been played for years and years together. I think in Mr. Modi, the Hindu masses saw a person who could give them justice. I think that also played a very big role in his elevation as Prime Minister.
So he was able to build a certain emotional he was able to build that emotional connect, and that led in a sense to the seventh moment that we've chosen in the life and times of Narendra Modi. Take a look.
एक नया संकल्प, नया इंडिया, नई ऊर्जा, नया पुरुषार्थ, एक लक्ष्य, एक मन, एक दिशा, एक गति, एक मति, राष्ट्र कल्याण की गति को तेज करना चाहता हूं और मैं करते रहूंगा।
2014, Narendra Modi wins an election for the BJP by a majority for the first time. The election that changed India. A quick word, Nilanjan, how much of this victory do you attribute to Modi's persona, or the fact that the Congress was in decline at the time and Mr. Modi was simply there at the right place at the right time?
No, I think it was primarily Mr. Modi, because he had already, acquired a larger-than-life image as far as Indian politics was concerned, and he accelerated the pace of Congress's decline. And as you were talking in the previous segment, it was the fear of being, led by the cadre, which actually forced the leadership to give the leadership to Mr. Modi. And he just took the masses along with him. No one expected, even within his party, that the BJP is going to get a majority of its own.
Well, my belief always has been that Mr. Modi was simply there at the right place at the right time in 2014. India was looking for a strongman leader after the Manmohan Singh era, and Mr. Modi was there as the so-called deliverer of Achhe Din. Let's turn then to moment number 8.
In September 2014, when Narendra Modi addressed a frenzied Indian diaspora in New York's Madison Square Garden, it marked a shift in how the world and USA perceived Modi.
That's right. Until then, Mr. Modi was even denied a visa by the United States. Now he's greeted by these euphoric crowds. How important, Uday, was it for Mr. Modi, once he was Prime Minister, to establish himself on the global stage, given what had happened pre-2014?
No, Mr. Modi had a very strong American connect. Of course, the events which happened after he became Prime Minister cut him off, for some time. But otherwise, he had a very good, I would say, he used to visit America every 2 years. He knew the strength of America. And the first thing which he did after coming to power was to impress America as to he is the person whom America would need in future in terms of its global requirements.
So in a sense, you are saying that he always had this special relationship with America. And we know that there are pictures of Mr. Modi outside the White House even in the mid-1990s, looking admiringly, in a sense, at the American president's home. Moment number 9 is from 2019. Take a look.
130 करोड़ हिंदुस्तानी ऐसी हर साजिश, ऐसे हर हमले का मुंह तोड़ जवाब देगा.
He promised to safeguard India by getting into the aggressor's homes and hitting him there.
The Indian Army conducted surgical strikes last night at these launch pads.
The surgical strikes across the border proved that Modi was true to his words and that he was willing to take the battle across into the enemy's lair itself.
So that was that moment, in a way, where Mr. Modi, ghar mein ghus kar marenge. Nilanjan, very quickly, was this his Indira Gandhi moment? He likes to, in a sense, see Indira Gandhi at one level as a role model. This was his moment, ghar mein ghus kar marenge, the muscularity of the strongman leader.
Yes, of course. This was actually notching a victory, under his belt. And that is what was done. The moment Balakot happened, it was very clear that the entire narrative of the 2019 elections had changed completely. The BJP was no longer on the back foot. It was just moving ahead.
Let me therefore come to the 10th moment that we've chosen, and it is again from 2019.
National security and nationalism quickly overtook development as the core issues this Lok Sabha elections, as the people of India showed that it was security more than anything else that mattered. People living thousands of kilometers removed from the border felt proud that India under Modi could strike Pakistan at will, and that their homes were safe, their lives protected, with Modi guarding the nation.
And that was the moment Mr. Modi was able to become the first Prime Minister since Indira to win 2 consecutive majorities. Uday Mahurkar, Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay, unfortunately we've run out of time, but I want to ask you, Uday, as someone who's known Mr. Modi for long, will Mr. Modi retire at 75 or will he be not tired, not retired? A quick answer.
He could retire.
You actually
after
think...
winning the next election, he could.
Okay.
I mean, Mr. Modi is known for springing up surprises, But I think midway, after winning the next election, he might retire.
Okay. Interesting. That's an interesting thought to leave us with. For now, Mr. Modi is 70. At 70, who knows what next lies ahead for a 2-time Prime Minister. For now, as I said, we wish Mr. Modi a happy birthday. He has many challenges before him, and we hope he takes those challenges head on and is able to take the people of India along with him. That would be the ideal birthday present. Thanks for watching the 10 moments that shaped the life of Narendra Modi. Bye for now.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.